JJK fans, rejoice because break week is almost over. Chapter 254 leaks are tonight in about 12 hours from this post, so let's briefly recap and obviously spoiler warning. And you already know what it is. It is Kusakabe Kaisen. This man is walking down Sukuna himself. He's about to show us why he is unanimously considered the strongest grade 1 sorcerer. I honestly can't wait for this. I'm not expecting him to actually pull out the dub or anything, but I think we're going to see some pretty impressive feats from Kusakabe. At least I hope so, because Maki is out of commission. She's not gone. Some people think that she's just completely toast. I don't think so. She's just, she's recovering in the corner for a bit. Yuji and Choso, MIA, I believe also recovering. So yeah, Kusakabe is going to have to hold down the fort by himself, and I think that's what we're going to see tonight. Or maybe we get a POV switch back to Hikari again, but I doubt it considering where the last chapter left off. Also, fun fact, it is March 20th, aka Yuji's birthday, so might we see anything interesting from the man himself this chapter? Y'all let me know your predictions down below. And then finally, y'all, I'm going to run through a few sponsor questions from you guys that are at least somewhat relevant to things going on here. So first up from Isaiah, he wants to know if Yuji could use a simple domain or even channel his cursed energy through a tool like Kusakabe does, and just could we see him bust out a simple domain or even a domain expansion? So I think absolutely to the simple domain question. I think in the month training they've been doing, especially the one-on-one training that we know Yuji and Kusakabe have been doing, I have to imagine that Kusakabe has taught him the simple domain. We know Yuji is a prodigious learner. He can pick up things quick, and the fact that, again, he was training specifically with Kusakabe, who is a master of the simple domain, I think for sure. We just haven't had to see him use this because Sukuna's domain expansion has been offline. But, given that he hit the backflash and his, output and everything is going to be coming back online, I think we probably will see Yuji do the simple domain before it's all said and done. Now, does he have a domain expansion? This is trickier because I do think Yuji has blood manipulation now, which means if he has a curse technique, he could theoretically have a domain, right? So I think it's possible, and I think we could see one before the end of the series, but I don't think it's like that pertinent of a thing for him to use right now, because even if he has one, I don't think it can do anything against Malevolent Shrine. Like, his refinement isn't going to be on that level at all, right? And if it somehow was, that would feel ridiculous to me. So maybe we'll see Yuji use a domain in like a niche situation at some point, but I don't see that coming like right now. Next up, got this question from Ray. Y'all feel free to pause if I'll move out of the way here if you want to read the whole thing. But essentially what Ray is talking about is how Sukuna's curse technique is going to ultimately be imprinted on Yuji. So Ray is wondering if the fact that Yuji was able to intentionally hit that black flash was maybe a clue to like Sukuna's power being in him, since we just saw Sukuna hit the black flash. So here's what I'll say. I think that by some means, Yuji's power or maybe, talent for black flashes could theoretically be from something doing with Sukuna. I could see that happening. That wouldn't be my current theory as it stands right now, but I do think that's definitely possible. Also, what I'll say is, I can't find where it is. Intentional black flash. I don't think neither Yuji nor Sukuna has ever done an intentional black flash. I know a lot of people think Yuji did one, especially against Mahito, but he didn't. He just is so good at it, and he was in the zone that he was able to hit one kind of when he wanted to. And I know this just sounds like semantics, but it wasn't at will, if that makes sense. You still, you can't do it at will. That's what we're told. And maybe, maybe something in the manga will happen where we find out it can be done at will. So I'm not saying that's, impossible, but I would say up through this point in the manga, I don't think we've seen anyone do one at will, including Sukuna against Maki. I know some people think that, since he turned off his RCT, that was him, channeling the energy into a black flash. I disagree. I think Sukuna is just like everyone else and has to be in the zone. And it's the fact that he was so excited against having a role, getting to test the merit of Jujutsu versus Maki's heavenly restriction, that he entered the zone. He entered that flow state and hit a black flash. And on that note, we've got this question from Belted, who says, what does it mean to reach 120% of your potential? It means just to be firing off on all cylinders, right? To be in the zone, in that flow state, which I was just talking about, which is how Gege describes hitting a black flash, right? And if you don't know what like in the zone or flow state means, I did a video describing black or explaining black flashes. And in that video, I compared it to like Steph Curry, if you're familiar with him, the NBA basketball player, who is just an insanely good shooter. And this is true of all athletes, not just Steph Curry, but he's a famous example that a lot of people will know, right? And Steph Curry, when he's really feeling it, when he's just chunking up threes and they're all going in, he will reach a point where he can shoot the ball and then turn around and start running the other way before it ever goes in the basket, because he knows it's going in the basket, because he's in the zone. He's in that flow state. So athletes can experience this. If you've ever played a video game, you might have experienced this where you're just killing it, right? So that is what reaching 120% of your potential means. Next up, we got this question from M. Ivory on, do I think it's possible Sukuna's curse technique is the black box and that he maybe stores other people's curse techniques by consuming them? So yes, this is one of my leading prevailing thoughts right now, is that not necessarily that he eats people and gets their curse technique. It might literally be that, but I do think at the very least, Sukuna's consumption of people empowers him. And maybe that's by stealing their cursed techniques. Maybe it's by stealing their cursed energy. I don't know. But I definitely think that's in line with what's going on. And I know a lot of people have asked for an in-depth video on my thoughts on his cursed technique. And I promise I am going to get to that. But there are just so many thoughts I have in that regard that I really want to condense them into something like meaningful before I share on it. But yeah, I could totally see it being something exactly in this line. Also, I do think he could swap out the technique in his domain just like we saw Okotsu do. And I've talked about this in a few videos, but for example, if Sukuna swapped his domain, in my opinion, it would still be Malevolent Shrine. It would still look the same. It would just no longer cleave and dismantle and would instead do whatever he imbued into it. So that's my 2 cents. And next up, we've got this question from Antoine, who asks, do I think that Sukuna eating Tengen was who Gege was referring to when he alluded to Sukuna eating an important character someday? So my gut instinct is no, but it's completely plausible, right? Like that could absolutely be it, because he did literally eat Tengen, who is obviously an important character. But just in terms of like, to put this really simply, like I guess shock value or like just like a really powerful moment, that Tengen moment wasn't it. Like a lot of people didn't even realize that was Tengen, you know what I mean? And so I just feel like for Gege to build up this kind of like aura around Sukuna eating and tease the fact that he may eat an important character, I just imagine that it would be a more visceral moment than the moment we got with Tengen. But again, like he technically ate an important character, so I could see that just being it. And finally, I also wanted to answer this question from Ray, who wanted to know what other manga or anime I'm open to talking about. So a lot, really. I would love to continue to cover more and more as time goes on. But as you guys may or may not know, I'm currently reading through One Piece for the first time. And when I'm caught up on that, I want to cover it in the same way that I covered JJK. But in addition to that, I am up to date and currently reading, like as new chapters come out, My Hero, One Punch Man. I'm not fully caught up on Blue Lock, but I'm making my way through that right now. I'm caught up on Kagurabachi. I want to start reading Sakamoto Days, but I'm going to wait until I'm caught up on One Piece before I start anything brand new. And then I'm all read up on Naruto, but not Boruto. I'm almost all the way read up on Bleach, except for like the newest arc of things. So like all of the big ones, I'm at least somewhat familiar with. I might not be like fully caught up or have the level of knowledge that I do with something like JJK. But I'm always working on those things. So yeah, I mean, if there's something you guys are passionate about and want to ask me about, please feel free. And worst case scenario, especially if you've donated for it, I will just refund if I don't have the knowledge that I need to. But anyway, thank you so much for the question. And to everyone, thank you so much for the support. I will see y'all tonight for leaks.